Hello out there in Guitar Modern Land. Anthony Pirog is one of those guitarists that I'm not sure when I first discovered him or how, but I know I've been writing about him and going to see him play for over a decade now, and done a couple of articles for Guitar Player and other ones for Guitar Modern, and also have gone to see him play in Nashville with the Aesthetics, at Big Ears with the Aesthetics. But I've been following since his beginnings with doing records with his wife Janelle on cello, as well as records with a trio of guitar players doing country music at a high level, and the Aesthetics, and now his latest record, which is a record of ambient music that he did with a bunch of guest artists like Nels Cline and John Frusciante and others. And so it's always great to talk to him, but it was great to be able to interview him about this record because there's so much amazing music on it, and because he's such a master of guitar and of effects, and basically has the ability to play any kind of music and make any kind of sound and does it all very well. He was also willing to go into detail about the effects and sounds he got on this record, which is always interesting to hear. So sit back and enjoy my interview with Anthony Pirog. I'm recording. This is the first one I'm trying. I hope it works. I'm recording to the cloud because that's the only way I can keep the split screen going.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, Zoom doesn't let you. If we do it on my computer, then it just goes back and forth between us.
Oh, okay. I see.
I'm trying this. I guess it doesn't allow you to do both. So let's all pray. Um, so let's start off. First of all, let's talk about the new record. So, who or what is Nepenthe? Is that how you pronounce it?
I say Nepenthe.
Okay.
So, I mean, what is it?
Yeah. I'm
Well,
ready.
I guess it's an elixir that soothes you um, in the classical meaning. But to me, when I was a young boy, we lived in California, and my family would take trips on the weekend down to Big Sur, and there was a restaurant called Nepenthe. So that was just one of my favorite memories. So the the name just kind of worked itself into, I guess it suited an ambient guitar record.
Well,
Um,
absolutely. But that begs the next question. What is your definition? What does ambient mean in your mind?
well, I mean, I always think about the Eno definition, but I mean,
Remind the class what the
oh, you want me to do that? Okay,
definition.
so it's music to be it's supposed to just fill up an environment and not really demand your attention, but set a mood. Um, that's what I believe, was talking about with music for airports. Correct me
Right.
if I'm wrong. But you know, I I was kind of into well, let me put it this way. In my For my records, I like to mix things up. But during lockdown stuff, I did a solo guitar record called TM, which is just a harsh noise guitar record. So I really enjoyed really diving in to a single approach, instead of saying like I'm going to add elements of harsh noise into this trio setting. Um, so what I did was I did a single track that was in my mind an ambient piece, and I decided this would be great to do an ambient record because I just did this TM harsh noise thing. I could go in the other direction to the other side of the extreme, and then I thought, well, it would be a lot more interesting for me to collaborate with people. So that's when I kind of got the idea to reach out to a lot of people that I admire. Um, so that's how that started.
So was this was I mean, do you think the collaboration thing was aided by the lockdown time that people had time to do this during lockdown that they might not have had? I know doing interviews, it's interesting doing these video interviews during especially the down section. I mean, I don't think there's any way John McLaughlin would have agreed to do an interview with my little video magazine, my online magazine, if it was normal circumstances. But during COVID, he was ready and willing and terrific to talk to. But I was able to get him to do it. Do you think some of these people were easier to get a hold of because of that?
Probably this was like near the end of when people were not going out. But I mean, you know, if I go through the list of people, I don't know. I think they would have done it. I mean, because, Andy and I were kind of exchanging tracks before the Messthetic started in like 2016. So he was taking the time to do it. Janelle, yeah, she would have done it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I hope.
you know, I would have been very hurt if she didn't take the time. But, Nels is just like always there. I don't know. It probably would have been not as easy, but
Yeah.
I think I could have got something done. We'll see how volume two goes now that everyone is out and about.
Right, right. Well, I was going to ask you about that later, but so how did you choose the collaborators? I mean, there were probably more than are on this record that you could have picked, from your acquaintances. How did you pick these specific ones?
I mean, I just I mean, everyone on this record is someone who is someone I've known for a long time or has been very kind to me. So I don't I don't really know how I chose them exactly. It's just I know that all these people do a lot of things, and I thought I knew that if I asked these people, they'd have an interesting take and would know what to do. If I just said, "Could you send me an ambient piece that I could record on?" So I mean, just to go through. I mean, I know
Well, I
not
want
only
to go. I want to go through them one at a time.
yeah, but I
But
mean, these are my heroes, and some of them are my heroes, are my good friends, or Janelle is my wife. So I mean, these are just people I look up to and admire.
oh, yeah, absolutely. Did you give them any instructions? Anything specific that you wanted them to do or not do, or that they, just, I mean, they're all great musicians, so just the brief being lay down a track that I can play over would have been enough. But in terms of ambience, did you discuss any of that with them, like what constitutes ambient or anything?
No, and I try to never give people guidance at all. I just said, could you send a 4 to 5 minute ambient track, and I put it in quotes so it could be interpreted. And you know, some people definitely interpreted that. And it's I didn't get exactly what I was expecting, but it led to really exciting results. So yeah, even going back to like Palo Colorado Dream, when I was working with Michael Formanek and Chess Smith, I would never really tell them how to play, because I mean I asked them to play because I love the way they approach music and I love their personality. So that I will say that was what for me was exciting about this project, because I didn't know what I was going to get, and then I had to work with it. And I could have just improvised over every track and be like, here, we're done. But I mean, for instance, on the track that I did with John Frusciante, that was my personal fourth attempt at creating a response. So I tried to really take the time to make something I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Did I was going to say, was it important? Well, I mean, they were using guitar to create the tracks, if they were guitar players, or bass in Luke's case, or did they just, some of them use synthesizers or modular or whatever?
John used a synthesizer. Um, it sounds like there might be some guitar in there too, but I didn't get into specifics. Um, Luke was playing acoustic six-string bass, because we have the duo 6/6, where he plays six-string bass and I play guitar. Um, Janelle's playing pedal steel guitar that's heavily processed, and then everyone else played guitar. So I mean, the initial idea was it's going to be a guitar record, but didn't end up being that 100%. So
Right. Well, once it gets into this kind of process territory, does it really matter?
exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's like you
It's
could never
just,
tell if
it's,
Janelle was playing pedal steel.
yeah,
But I
I was going to ask you what she was playing on it, and now that blows my mind. Did you, did you specify a format that they would send you, and did you ask for stems or just a stereo track?
I just said record, and everyone kind of knew that it would be I like a stereo thing. But I never asked people what they had. I think I may have talked to a couple people to see, like, do you have a home system that you can record on? And everyone's like, yeah, no problem. So I mean, the no, I didn't have any specifics for the actual recording, the files. Um, so I just kind of, I mean, I put a lot of trust into everybody. I figured they would deliver something that would be appropriate. Um, sorry, I don't have more to say about that.
No, no, I was just curious, how I'm always curious about the process,
Yeah, the whole thing was like it's like approaching all these people is kind of was like a little nerve-wracking, and I just wanted it to feel like they were going to be able to create something that would be fun and easy for them. So, I mean, this is kind of an interesting group of people to get together and kind of create slow music with, because I mean, there could be a lot of fire coming out of these kind of collaborations, but that's also what was very interesting to me about this whole thing.
yeah, well,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, yeah, a lot of these people are not known specifically for ambient. So I was going to ask you, oh, so what software were you using? What did you put it into?
I usually use Live. I just started using it a few years ago because I was trying to figure out how to make electronic music, and it just kind of became the thing I work with. I think for Ryan's track I use Pro Tools, and I think Andy's track I use Pro Tools too. So I kind of go back and forth between the two. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just have an Apogee Duet here, and I used my aux box to record myself. And as far as everyone else, I'm not really sure what they did. I think Brandon has someone that records him. Andy, I think, has someone that records him. Um, I know that Janelle did her track in a studio in New York with the producer Randall Dunn. And then other than that, I'm not sure. Oh, Nels was recorded by his wife Yuka Honda in their home. But I don't know what their specifics are in terms of mics or gear or even software. Are
Right.
they?
No, I'm more curious about what you were doing, like when you were overdubbing. So you say you're using the aux, and
Yeah.
what amp were you running into it?
So I have this 64 Princeton back there, and I think I used my Benson Monarch, which is over there too, a little bit. Um, but I thought, I mean, last time we spoke, I think I was raving about the Axe effects.
Right.
So um, I really had a lot of success with the Axe effects. I made a whole record for Joel Harrison's label, AGS Recordings, called Inside, and that was all Axe effects, and all the effects were using the Axe effects software. So I got the aux box for this project specifically because I want to run my effects into my amp. Um, and I just had a great experience using it. I mean, just being able to hit the front end of my amp with my pedals that I know how to use made it really fun and easy. So um, I like it, and I've done stuff, with location with Michael Formanek and Mike Pride using the aux here. I did some recording because that was another remote project. But anyway, I think it's an amazingly powerful tool for home recording. It's like there's no work to get a good tone. Just plug it in and sounds like you're in a studio.
Yeah, everybody raves about it, and it seems
It's crazy.
yeah. So you are great. So you're running your pedals in front. Any new interesting fun pedals that you've used on this or come across?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
uh,
Here
I
we
mean,
go.
I went through like a fuzz period when I was, at home by myself. So Henry Kaiser kind of started that. He was like, "What's your favorite fuzz pedal?" And I was like, "Well, I have a Fuzz Factory, which is like a classic and it's great." But then I started thinking, I don't know anything about fuzz pedals. So I really did a very deep dive into it, and yeah, there are some things that I really like, but I also like the quality that a fuzz. Like if you watch David Torn play on Instagram, all the social media posts he makes, I mean, it's just incredible that he can make fuzz speak. So there's actually quite a lot of fuzz on this record from my parts, because I'm creating like synthy sounds, or it can be more vocal. Um, but the fuzzes that I really like, that I use all the time, I use there's this company Collector Effector. It's a single builder named Patrick, and he's on Instagram. And I have his Zonk machine with a third knob that is just fantastic. I've used it for every show. I've used it on every recording since I got it. It's all over Janelle's recording for Ensemble Volcanic Ash. I just really like the unpredictable nature of that grit, and yeah, it has sustain, but it kind of like gates out after a while. It's not immediate. It's not like you're fighting the gating, but that's been great. Actually, did you want to go track by track? Because I could just start talking about some of the fuzz if that's.
Yeah. Well, did you want to mention it in conjunction with the individual tracks?
Yeah, because I use different effects. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, let's do it.
because I mean that might
Before
actually be better if I can remember.
one thing I wanted to ask you before we get to it, did you just overdub on the tracks or did you insert any sections? Like, would you do a section of your own and edit it into a track they sent you?
No, I tried to really just honor what they sent me because they took the time to do it. I did cut some down, like some were long, so I edited some down, but I would just take the end off or fade out. But I mean that was just to save time, so it wasn't like a hour long record.
Right. And did you use any plugins a lot of significantly? Okay, well, we can get into those on a track by track basis. So let's talk about the Nels track.
Okay.
Um, is the section up on at the top you or did you add that section to the top or did is that something he did? Because it sounds like it kind of shifts gears about half a minute in.
Well, I actually just wrote a little essay on this collaboration for Talk House, which was kind of fun. Um, but this track was like crazy to me because Nels is like my hero. So I mean, I've known him for a long time, but I've never asked to play with him. And this was very meaningful. I mean, all these collaborations are meaningful to me, but I mean, this was he's someone I've looked up to and has I've got a lot of inspiration from him. So I mean, what I wanted to do with this piece was when he sent it to me, I was like, well, he sent me a photo of him sitting there so I could see what pedals he was using. I was like, I have most of those pedals. And this probably isn't the smartest thing to do, but I was like, I kind of want it to sound like we're one instrument or two hands on an instrument, I should say. So I really followed his track pretty closely because I saw he had the plus pedal, and that's like doing the long drone stuff. And someone who's my student and friend had a plus pedal, so I borrowed it to use on this track. So I kind of wasn't trying to mimic him, but I wanted it to sound like it was the same synthesizer or something. So all of the ideas here were initiated by Nels, and I listened to it a lot, and I learned kind of the tonality and the shifts, the changes in the harmony, and then I just like did it in one pass. But this one I sat with for a couple of months, I think, because I was a little intimidated. Um, just because it's not
Yeah.
always easy to work with people that you've looked up to and admired for decades. It's like, at least
No,
for me.
always. I mean, I mean, I've had the fortune, the good fortune to occasionally play with some of my heroes, and it's a combination of, oh my God, this is great, and oh my God, look who's standing over there, and
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So
exactly.
it's a mixed blessing. But it's interesting in terms of ambient music. I mean, it goes along very ambient, and then there's that like crash of
Oh, you're
sound.
talking about that thing. Oh no, that's him for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I mean, like I was kind of learning what he did so I could play off of it, and I wanted to know what that was. And I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's uh, something like a something like that, I think.
Yeah. But it
So
just leaps out. I mean, if you were sitting there trying to zone out and stuff, it would be like kind of what?
exactly, because I mean, yeah, it's jarring, but it's like it's not super harsh. It's
Yeah.
still it's just engaging. And when I was getting these pieces from these people, it was like very touching because they were really trying to make something like good. It's not like I was expecting them to do something bad, but it's all I can say is very meaningful to
Yeah.
get.
Well, it's orchestral is what it is. It's like an orchestral hit at that point, and then it kind of goes back into the more calming ambient type sound.
Well, it reminds me of Messiaen or something like that, something
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that. But yeah, so that I was just basically following him on this, and I thought that would be a nice entrance to the whole recording. But I kind of cheated because I saw he had the Earthquaker. Is it called the Astral Destiny?
Yeah.
I had that, so I could like mimic the shimmer effect, so it sounded like a stereo instrument. And then I tried to not stand out too much.
Yeah. No, it does. I mean, it does sound all of a piece. There's some like stuff that sounds harp harmonic type stuff in there, and that's him also.
That's him
Yeah.
doing the beat, and then I did like the sixth or something in response. So he did that, then I like responded with something else.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it works beautifully. It also leads very nicely into the Frusciante piece seems to come out of that really nicely. I mean, the drone that comes, next, just sequence wise, moves really nicely. But you say he was using a synthesizer for that?
yeah, I think it's an electron mono machine maybe. But anyway, that synthesizer sounds massive, and I didn't want to lose the subs from it. I know that it's pretty. I mean, there's a lot of low information in that, but that I do like that sequence too because I think it just establishes the kind of mission of the record, and then it starts moving around a little bit later. But um, that was exciting to get too because I could do anything, and that's why I said, for this one, the fourth thing I attempted was what I used for the record. But I mean, it's like a G, and it just is expanding and contracting. Um, so the other with this kind of music for the mastering, I really want to leave all of the frequencies in the mix and master because it's a large part of the dynamic since there aren't like a lot of transients in this piece, for example. It's just like a tone that's moving. So I had to say, well, okay, I have like a note. It's accomplishing the feeling, but like what do I want this to be? Do I want it to be minor? Do I want it to be major? Do I want it to have interesting tensions in the scale? Um, so I had to kind of figure all that out. It's not like I just said, "Great, let's go." And for my personal part on this, I was using a Solo Sound one knob fuzz, the blue one, um, and I thought I got that one to speak pretty well. I was using a Death by Audio Echo Dream 2 for the vibrato delay, And what I did was I was playing, and then I just made the track reverse, and then like the vibrato delays kind of, um, you know, created that backwards delay reverb thing. And I may have moved things around a little bit and cut some phrases out here and there. And I think there are two passes, so it's like two voices kind of moving. And then I put some power chords in with a Ram's Head Big Muff that I've had for a while, and I used my ZVEX Lo-Fi Loop Junkie for the loops that come in halfway through the tracks. Um, and then there's also a higher loop with my 16-second delay reissue that it's up 2 octaves that's doing some kind of sparkle stuff. But that's that's what I did for that track.
So did he just send you a G drone, or you said there might be some guitar on there as well?
I mean, there's some stereo stuff, but it's mostly a drone,
Hmm.
and it was like it's perfect. But I mean, it's like I loved what he sent me. It's like, this is unbelievable. This is perfect for the record, but I have a responsibility now to do something. That's what I felt like after every track. It's like, oh God, what do I do?
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to come up with anything cool. So,
Well, it had to be difficult because I mean the nature of ambient, that type of ambient music is it fills a lot of space. I mean, if people are doing a track like that and they're adding anything at all, they're filling a lot of sonic space, and how to fit yourself into that must have been a challenge.
yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, I didn't want it to be silly, which I wanted it to like serve a nice purpose for listening. And I mean, that just comes with it has its own set of challenges. But John's great. I mean, he came to see us because he's friends with Joe from Aesthetics. So he came to see us, I think, 2 or 3 times in LA. And then when, they were playing here in DC, he hung out with us. He's just been really nice to talk to and very supportive, kind.
Cool. So who's next?
Now we move on to Luke.
Oh yeah.
Stewart.
And he's some sort of acoustic bass, you say?
I think he's playing 6 string electric.
Oh, six
Uh,
string electric. Okay. Because I thought
and
in the press it said something about it said something about him making like a sequence, something that sounded like a sequencer by using fuzz on the bass. Was that?
that was me. So
Oh,
he sent me like sounds, like scratching sounds, like almost like extended techniques. So this was a great track to get, because it doesn't, to me, fall immediately into the category of ambient music. I mean, it is, but it's not like, if you were going to go to the genre section, it might not be what you would think. But this was great because it made me kind of question what was happening and what I could do, to make it work into the sequence of tracks. So when I started listening to him here, I heard it more like it sounded like a crackling fire. Um, so when I started hearing it like that, I remembered some Boards of Canada recordings that I liked that would have like crackling fire in the background. There would be a synthesizer going like, and underneath there'd be some kind of like field recording as kind of sounds. So that's how I chose to approach this one. And the sounds, the sequence that I made for this, it's back there. It's the original, the FZ1, the Satisfaction fuzz. So I got one of those from a store here, Action Music, and I
the
looped,
Maestro? Was it Maestro?
yeah, the wedge, the brown wedge, the
Yeah.
first fuzz, and it sounds just like a synthesizer. I mean, I looped it into my 16-second delay reissue, and I mean, I would never have thought that fuzz could sound like a synthesizer. And then I think in live, I doubled the track and then put it up an octave and then faded the two voices in and out. And then it also created the drone, in the second section of this piece, which I ran through Sound Toys panning plugin, and it's like a random stereo panning thing. So I love this track, but again, it was like initially I didn't know what to do at all, and so I had to like force myself to like see the sound as something to get inspired.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I've been experimenting a lot when I do music and with mixing that kind of ambient drone things with noise, scraping, noise type stuff. I discovered a while back a cool thing. A lot of people use, steel wool on the strings or something, or
Yeah, like Frith or
those
something.
scrubby things that are metal. But every time I use that, I ended up with like filings and metal in the pickups. So I started using they make, plastic scrubbies and you can get a very similar effect. You put enough fuzz on it, it doesn't matter whether it's metal or plastic, but it's a plastic so you don't get the filings. That's just a tip for you kids out there is that if you don't want those filings in your pickups, get the plastic scrubbies and use that.
I wish I had that advice when I was younger. I saw my dad's metal file because I saw Elliot Sharp and Nels using springs. And I had this metal file and I just like hold it on the strings and move it really slowly. And it just went like, "Beep, beep, 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 beep." But all the metal from the strings would be all over the pickguard, like you're saying.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh yeah. I've used files too. I didn't have as much trouble with that, but anytime I tried to use those kind of Brillo pad type things, and definitely don't use them with soap, kids. I don't want to use the Brillos with soap. But cool. Well, yeah, but it's interesting how that works. I never would have thought it does, but it really does work when you just have kind of pure noise stuff mixed in with almost lush, not exactly melodic necessarily, but lush tonal textures. They
right.
they can work really well with those things if you work it properly.
Absolutely. And this goes back to like my idea with not wanting to or trying not to mix genres within a record because I could easily just go with Luke. I mean, we have an improv duo that's heavily processed with effects, and we're going like full noise. But I had to force myself to say, how can I keep this in this realm? And anyway, that's how that track worked out.
Cool. And let's see who's next.
Then we have Andy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now that one is a little different.
Yes,
Yeah.
because he basically, I mean, he delivered almost like a full song structure. Um, it's a chord progression in time with a B section or a bridge kind of thing. So, I mean, it's beautiful. His use of like effects and timbres is just really inspiring. There's lots of stereo delays, and it sounds like there's a fifth on some of the delays. And I mean, this was really exciting to get this piece, and this gave me a clear function. It's like, well, there's room here for a melody, and I mean, I think it's also a nice addition for the recording to have something like this with some consistent momentum and like melodies, like I just said. Um, so what I did is I just sat in this chair and I record myself with my phone and I improvised over it and I basically improvised the melody. Um, I do that sometimes when I'm making records. I'll just jam and then transcribe what I'm playing and make little tweaks so that it's exactly what I want to hear for the melodies. But this is just one of those examples when it worked out for me and it was pretty fast. Um,
Yeah, I was going to ask you who did the melody. Was it you or him?
yeah, he recorded all the chords. So he was the first person I asked to take part in this. Like I said, we were doing some trading some tracks back and forth around 2016. So I was pretty sure he would want to, or he would be into uh, giving me something. Um, and basically, I basically told myself, I'll ask Andy, and if Andy says yes, I'll do this whole record. And he said yes. So he got this to me very quickly, like within a week. So um, I don't know. I'm just really proud of this. When I recorded my parts, I used a Sola Sound uh, Mark 1.5 fuzz, which is like a fuzz face. So that's I'm using that sound, and then I think it's the Maris. Is it the Enzo? Is the synth pedal? I doubled the melody with those two sounds, and I think in the B section, I took the fuzz out, and it's just the Enzo doing the boo da 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 da, the arpeggiated line. Um, and then I may have added some like lower bass stuff um, in certain sections just to add that kind of dynamic. But this one was pretty easy for me, or it happened quickly, I should say. Um, I'm very proud of this track.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's great that you had him on there. I mean, I love that there was that real noisy record he did, a couple of records ago that was I thought was brilliant. It was just all about sounds, and he's kept up with that kind of stuff.
Oh,
He's
absolutely.
really into it, always looking for new pedals and looking for.
Yeah, and I mean, I think about you when I think about him because I mean of his photography. He just came through and played in at Wolf Trap outside of DC. And have you seen the show he's doing by himself?
No, I've heard, I follow him on Facebook, and I've heard him talk about it. And we talked a little bit about photography the last time, when I interviewed him,
Yeah.
when I did the video interview with him. And yeah, it seems to be a natural. I mean, we both know Ralph Gibson, this photographer, very famous photographer, um, who also plays guitar. I think Brandon Ross, he took lessons from Brandon Ross, and he will do photo shows. He's coming at it from the opposite end. He will do photo shows, but he's got a Klein guitar, and
That's
he'll play guitar at his photo shows. I mean, he's 80 now. I think he's in his 80s now, but I think he just did it in Japan, and yeah, I'll check online, see if there's any video of Andy's show, because I'm really curious, because ultimately I want to do that. I mean, I would love to do a gallery show somewhere and play the music. I mean, we were going to do that, talking about doing that in Nashville before we left, because there were galleries where we could do it, and this was and lockdown hit, but
yeah,
and
you really should.
yeah, so eventually I want to get that out there, do a show and play music to accompany it. And yeah, I mean, Andy's been doing photography forever. And I don't know if we've even mentioned that we're talking about Andy Summers from The Police. It's
Yeah,
not, not just
well,
any Andy.
of course.
Well, it just occurred to me, people watching this, who's this Andy they're talking about? Yes.
um, yeah, but his show was amazing because it was 2 hours long, and he had a huge projection of his photos, going rolling through, and he was watching a monitor, and he came out with his Strat and like some stereo delay and did this modern kind of improvisation. Then he had a guy triggering tracks, and he would play along to tracks. And then he sat down with his 335 and played around midnight and Black Orpheus and stuff like that. And we just talked, and it was like really, really fun. He's the only person I have not met in person. We've talked on email and on the phone. And when he came, he said we were supposed to meet. He left tickets and backstage passes, but they didn't give us the backstage passes, so didn't get to meet him in
Oh,
person.
has not happened.
But I think it's something to still look forward to. So there. That's how.
Now, did he mention you when I interviewed him in one of the interviews, and
For the
had you
reason
met
that
him
this
before?
happened.
Oh, okay. So you hadn't met him before that.
No, I woke up one morning and checked Facebook, and I was linked to that interview, and he mentioned me. So then I got in touch with you, got in touch with his publicist, and then we talked. And I'll just send a note every now and then saying hi. What do you look for in strats or something like that? And, just little notes here and there. But we talked on the phone, and it was very nice. Had a great conversation with him. So
Yeah, he's great. He's a funny guy.
yes, absolutely.
Oh, so who is next? Oh, so Janelle, we determined she was playing pedal steel. I mean, it was so processed. I had no idea. I think of her as a cellist, and I thought, wow, that's so heavy processing on that cello to come out.
Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah, I mean, she plays everything. So um, she had this track sitting around um, from a record that she's been working on, and I told her about this project, and I asked her if I could use it. I felt kind of weird because I didn't want to like take her work, but I also was like, this would be a perfect addition, and I really want you to be on this because she's like my closest musical collaborator and has been for almost 20 years. Probably it has been 20 years at this point. It's just our band was officially started in 2005. So the other thing I should say, I need to say because it's important, is that Janelle produced this record. So um, she was giving me constant feedback on all these tracks. Like, she would let me know if something could be better. She'd give me directions on, how to approach sounds and the ambience around sounds. And I mean, the reason I asked her is because she's the only person I really trust when it comes to feedback. I mean, because she just knows what I like and I know what she likes. And she's always like helping me get my musical ideas together for all my projects. I'm just like, what do you think of this? She's like, you know, or that's great. And it's just it's nice to, have someone to bounce ideas off with, and she's great. So anyway, um, yeah, I'm not sure what she's going to do with this track. If it's still going to appear on her record, but it's a chord progression that flows, but it doesn't have like time like Andy's does. It's a sequence of chords, but it's moving in an unpredictable way. I'm not sure how they did it, but it's just beautiful. And I sat down, I plugged in my guitar synth, and I started just playing. And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be easy." And then Janelle came in, and she's like, you already did that. And I was like, on this record, I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, no. And she's like, why don't you just play your guitar? And I was like, I don't really want to on this. I don't. And she's like, you should really just play guitar. And then I started playing, and I laid down a track, and she came back in, and she was like, yeah, that's cool, but you should try to make it speak. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I mean, I thought I was. And anyway, that's the kind of feedback that got this track moving. I'm actually really proud of this. And people, we're getting some reviews, and people are kind of singling this track out a lot, which is making me really happy because I really tried to make an improvised melodic statement um, uh, without it kind of sounding like too soundtracky. Um, my fear was like maybe if I approached stuff like this, it would sound like it was a soundtrack from like a action movie from the 90s or something. Um, so I always have these kind of things that I'm trying to avoid. um,
It reminds me more of, I mean, in addition to being a nice offset of the Andy Summers track where there's melody also, this has, more discernible melody, but it's not, I think she was right, using the synth would have made them maybe too similar. But it also, the first thing that came to my mind was almost like there's some old Terje Ripdahl records where there's like a pad, he plays over a pad, and it had that kind of feeling to me of just like, a guitarist responding to chord pads, underneath, and it almost is a response. You can feel the response in it. It's not just noodling over it. It feels like you're hearing the chord, the change, and then reacting to it, which is, how I remember those Ripdoll tracks were like that, where there'd be a pad of some sort, whether it was synthesizer. It probably was in those days. I think they were using some early synthesizers, and he would just play over it, and it's yeah, it sounds great, and
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah,
And yeah, that was the challenge for me because I was thinking there's a song. So the first kind of maybe really free music CD I got into was Zorn's Taboo and Exile. And there's a track on there where there's a piano over a chord progression and they're playing, I can't remember who's playing piano, but they're playing interesting, it's not out, but they're leaning into interesting tensions against the chords. And there's just a little rhythm going like, and then it's a chord progression and beautiful melodies on top of it. I wish I remembered the name, but that was in my mind for this, just because it was one of the early things I heard. Um, but this was just that was my main jazz master going through the Clon and some. I was using the Sound Toys plate reverb a lot, and the is it called the Echo Boy?
yeah, Echo Boy.
Yeah, I was using that quite a bit. So I think that's all that was really going on in this track. It's just the two of us. So it was also cool because we've done so much together as a duo. This was fun for me because it doesn't sound like our duo at all.
Well, when you do the duos, usually she's usually playing cello, isn't she?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, even just as an approach, it's
Yeah.
we don't do
No,
anything.
I mean, if her name hadn't been on it, it would never have occurred to me that it was her doing the bed.
Yeah. Well,
And then it seems to lead nicely into, I guess the next one is your solo, is just you. Um, or I should say all you. I don't know how many tracks you laid down for it. But
no, this is all me. So this was the beginning of the whole project when I mentioned I did one track by myself. And I was like, oh, I like this. I like ambient music. I would like to do an ambient record. Um, this was when we were in California. We were staying in right near Presida Park in San Francisco. And when we couldn't really go out, into public, we would go to up the hill to Bernal Heights for sunsets, and that's what this is about. I guess if it's about anything, but this is using plugins heavily. So this is just one pass with a delay. So I set up the Echo Boy. I mean, I don't know how I did it really. I just did it, but I had the Echo Boy set up to do repeats, but it would cut like layer and then decay in the right way. And it's going through a cassette plugin, which is kind of crazy to me, but I like the sound. Um, and I just made it. I don't even know what was
when you
going
say
on.
cassette plug-in, you mean like to give it a lo-fi cassette type sound?
Yeah, because when I started listening to music, it was like Boards of Canada was important to us, and that kind of warbly lo-fi thing was cool to me. For Pocket Poem, I recorded on my. Well, we talked about this in the last time we talked. I used my 4-track from my childhood to record the acoustic guitar piece, and I brought it into the studio. We dumped it into Pro Tools. But I've always liked that sound just because, like I said, I was using 4 tracks. And when I brought it to my friend, well, actually, no, I dumped it here and I gave him the file. He's like, "Did you record this to tape?" Because he could hear the flutter and stuff. I was like, "Yeah, it's a cassette tape, but yeah, tape." So this is just a single pass, and it's the beginning of the record, and it relies largely on the delay and the timbre that the cassette plugins bringing. So
Yeah. You said you use, well, I guess it's the delay was what, the Echo Boy again, right?
yeah, it's the Echo Boy.
Yeah.
So that, but I mean, the most important thing is that it's that was the beginning of the whole idea, and it was just made on my laptop on the kitchen counter. So
As one does these days.
I guess so.
Yeah, of course. So what did Brandon bring to the table?
Well, I've been a huge fan of his for many years since I was a student. I mean, and have you seen Harriet Tubman live?
In person? No.
That band is crazy. Like to me, it's like it just comes in waves. Like the dynamics just keep, but they're like it's slow moving. It's a really heavy experience to sit there and listen to them, because they get heavy. Um, but anyway, I love what he does, and we did a collaboration with the Mesetics, and that trio. I might be close to a year and a half ago now. They came down to DC. We did some recording, and we did a show, and they're just great. He's amazing, and I know he does this kind of thing, so I asked him to take part, and he I love his piece because it has these really unexpected tonal shifts, and I use the same kind of approach with I did with Nels. I got it and I learned the chords, and this is one of those tracks for me where I used the GR300 to play more of a melody, um, or how to take a melodic approach, but I was trying to make it sound more like an actual synthesizer player, what the player would do in an ambient setting. So, um, yeah, that's um, that's really all I did, and I added a loop like I did in the John Frusciante track up a couple of octaves. But Brandon is awesome. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think I've only seen him live with many, many years ago with Cassandra Wilson.
yeah.
It was I think it was him and Kevin Bright were both in the band at that time, and it was fabulous.
I think he was the musical director, right?
If he wasn't then, I think he became it later. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. His plane was delayed or something, and that's when I first. Do you know Kevin Bright? Oh, you got to check out Kevin Bright. He's a Canadian guitar player, and he's an interesting guy. He's like he grew up in the woods. He plays everything with strings on it, or at least he's done entire records of just mandolin overdubs and
Whoa.
entire records of just banjo overdubs, baritone banjos, bass banjos. Um, he's a really interesting kind of angular, amazing, amazing player. And when Brandon, I guess, missed his flight or something, and they were doing Cassandra was doing a thing at San Francisco Tower Records before the show that night or the next night at the Fairmont, or the Mark Hopkins, I forgot where it was, but Kevin just did it. It's just him and the bass player, the percussionist, and her, and it was just amazing. And then I went to the show, and it was both of them, I think. And it was yeah, it was great. That's the only time I got to see Brandon play. I mean, I may have seen him at the Stone at some point, but at this point, my memory is so shot that I don't I don't remember.
Yeah, no,
Like
no, no, I hear you.
I may have seen Jimi Hendrix 3 times. I know I saw him 2 times, but it was the 60s. And if you
Let's
know,
go with three.
if you remember it, you weren't there, so
Exactly. Well, I mean, I think about his playing all the time. I
uh,
mean, his use of, again, like fuzz. I think he uses the 23 pedal or something. He really makes it speak, and he plays it like an instrument, like I was talking about
yeah.
earlier. It's like that's what's cool about a fuzz pedal as opposed to distortion or high gain or a heavy overdrive. It's like you have to, it kind of like affects your technique. And I love the way he makes it speak. And his time feel is just like so, it feels so good. His phrasing is amazing. I mean, I've known all this, but to me, this is when we played with him, it really, that's something I heard. It's like once you get on stage with people, then you really start to learn some things. And his feel and melodic sense is just so inspiring to me. And also, since we play with him, I was never into for myself using modulation, but now I'm constantly using modulation. I love this is a pedal that I am using all the time. Can I show you one?
Sure.
Okay. This is a really great Univibe
Oh, yeah.
cl- classic amplification, the CV2, and I use it for the vibrato setting. Like I like a slow vibrato, and this vibrato on this is especially good. I'm constantly using that with my aesthetics now and Janelle, I think basically all the time. And that's because Brandon has a great sound with. I think he's using the line 6, the purple modulation pedal, but
But he's using the Univibe setting in it.
I I don't know. That's what it sounded like to me. It might be like a flange, but it's subtle and slow. Anyway, just everything about his playing is just unbelievable to me.
So when you did the thing with the Aesthetics and Harriet Tubman, did you do it as like a double trio, 2 guitars, 2 basses, 2 drums?
Yes.
Oh, that must have been interesting. And did you say you did some recording? Is that recording going to come out ever?
It will at some point. I'm not really sure what's happening. I hope it comes out very soon because I mean, that was a very it was a great experience. Um, but there's some things happening that yeah, I can't really talk about with the aesthetics yet. Sorry to be vague, but um, I'm not really sure when it's going to come out. But everyone kind of wrote some pieces, and then we did some improvisations. It was just great. I mean, they're an amazing band.
Yeah, I'll have to check out some more stuff on YouTube because
Yeah, it's
um,
fantastic.
so Wendy Eisenberg, I saw her in Nashville, and if I'm remembering correctly, she's the one. She uses a pedal that just pans her guitar between 2 amps.
Is
I think that's her that does that.
maybe. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think when I saw her, that's what she was doing, and it was such a cool sound. I mean, you had to be in the room to get it, otherwise, I guess. Well, no, I think when she records, maybe she does it too, or maybe she doesn't do it anymore. But I think it was her that was doing that when I saw her in Nashville.
it could very well be. I mean, when I met Wendy, it was at Rhizome, which is the DIY venue in DC, and she was doing duo with Shane Parrish, and I was playing duo with sax player Jarrett Gilgore, who lives in Mexico now. Um, but they were doing an acoustic guitar duo improv thing. They did a record together, which is great, and that was in like 2008 when I met her there. And yeah, it's just have you? She has an amazing record on Zadok with Chess Smith on drums and Trevor Dunn on bass. A trio is it's really really good. It's just an excellent use of sounds, effects, extended techniques. I mean, it's just free. So I'm blown away. Wendy also has amazing solo acoustic guitar records, and I mean, the stuff with vocals is just great. The I'm a big fan. So and I think she's from Gaithersburg, Maryland, which isn't too far from here. So anyway, I asked her to take part, and she sent me probably the harshest track. Um, and I was like, this is another one where I like had to stop and say, okay, I have to sit with this and like see what's happening. What can I add to this? Because I don't know if harsh is the right word. It's just it's like it's creating an environment which I saw immediately. I'm like, this is a really cool take on this. I'm just not sure with the expectations I'm bringing right now how I'm going to approach this track. So I actually like struggled conceptually with this for like maybe 4 months. I would just sit around and listen to it, and I occasionally would try to add something that was like soft to kind of make the track kind of sit how I thought it might sit better in the whole piece. And I wasn't getting what I wanted from me. So eventually I just sat down and I set up a pedal chain. I set up, again, another collector effector fuzz. I think this is called the Moon Wolf. Have you heard of that?
Yeah. So many buzzes, so little time.
This thing is amazing. So I'm using this and the tensor, the Red Panda tensor. And I had the plus pedal in, so I was hitting some drones. And I just tried to, use that kind of approach, more of an out approach, and a melodic thing, because you can't really play chords with fuzz. But this, I am very happy with this track. It pushed me to find something that I wouldn't have probably added without Wendy's contribution.
Yeah, it fits surprisingly well, and it also, I think, if I remember correctly, it sounded to me the most like people playing together in a room.
Yeah.
I mean, just like you were responding to what she's doing, and it felt like in real time, somewhat in real time, as opposed to layering stuff.
Well, that's what was interesting about the remote stuff with location, location, location. That record that I talked about earlier with Michael Formanek and Mike Pride that came out in Cuneiform Records. It's like we were sending each other improvisations and everyone was improvising to it. So if you are used to improvising, you can treat it like you are playing with them, because it's not like you're just playing randomly all the time. You're reacting to things like you're saying. And some of those tracks I still can't believe that we didn't do it in the same room. It's like, it sounds like we're jamming. But I also remember sitting here and saying, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do. I may have heard this track before because, they sent it to me. I was just checking it out, but I'm going to pretend I'm playing in a band. So you can use the same process. It's how people solo all the time on record.
But you're preaching to the choir. I mean, my that whole, there is something that can be magic when you actually have the people in the room at the time working. But for the most part, you're still, if you're a good musician, if you're overdubbing or, a solo, or you're sending in a track or doing whatever, you're still responding. If you're good, you're responding to the music. Yeah, it just reminded me of a funny story. I did a track, a remote track for a friend of mine, and she sent me the tracks, and the players were Scott Amendola and Victor Krause was the rhythm section.
That's a pretty good rhythm section.
That's a pretty decent rhythm section. And she came to Nashville and recorded with them, and she's a brilliant musician, and she sent me the tracks, and I'm trying to play with them, and something doesn't feel right, and I can't I keep thinking, of course it's me, because it's Victor Krause and Scott Amendola. They can't be out of sync. But the more I listen to it, the more I realize they just don't sound like they're playing together. And eventually she revealed, oh, oops, I sent you the bass track from one take and the drum track from a different take. So I was sitting there trying to do it. And the funny thing is, so the track she used was the one when she came to Nashville. She was living in Richmond, still is in Virginia. She came to Nashville just to work with me to get an idea of what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And for that, we recorded my tracks. But she brought the rhythm section, part, and I played to that. And she ended up using that because that was played to a real rhythm section. But if the rhythm section is the proper takes for both people and they are playing together the way great players can do, it's easy, and you really are responding to them. And it can be done so many ways. And you're a great musician and you're going to just do that. And even if you've heard it before, I would imagine, with something like that where it's fully improvised, unless you're going to sit down and chart it out. I mean, and charting out kind of noisy stuff might be a little difficult anyway. You're going to respond differently every time you do it anyway, but you're still responding.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, this was a very cool track because I mean, I talked to Wendy on the phone because she sent me a stereo mix, and then I asked if I could get the stems because I kind of wanted to move things around a little bit in the mix. And she told me I was really thinking about what ambient music could be, and I tried to create this environment. So it was really cool to hear her talk about it. She's really conceptual with the stuff that she does, and yeah, I'm just grateful to have this track included because it is in a completely different zone, and
Right.
but it functions very well on the record. I mean, I love all these tracks, but
Yeah. Well, then we come to Ryan, and
yeah,
interestingly enough, I mean, he made an ambient record not too long ago of his own, at least one, maybe two. And I broke my hip shortly after we moved down south for the summer. I mean, for the winter last year. And while I was in the hospital, I would listen to his ambient record at night just to try and help me sleep. And I really owe him an interview. I promised him one, and I will do it, Ryan. If you watch this, we will do it at some point because he's a wildly underappreciated, I think, guitar player. I mean, he's an amazing guitar player, and he just people don't know him. Where did you meet him? How did you get to know him?
well, I mean, I appreciate his guitar playing so much. I mean, I first heard about him through Snake Oil. Um, so I was a big fan of that group, Tim Burns Snake Oil, and I think it was the third record where he introduced guitar. I think it's called "You've Been Watching Me," and on that record there's a solo guitar piece that I guess Tim Burns composed. Ryan just plays beautifully, plays that piece beautifully. I mean, he has a great approach in the band. It's like a heavily saturated melodic function. Um, and I just thought it was super cool. He's got like a Parker Fly and cool tone. And I also played with him. I can't remember. There was a really large ensemble in Baltimore. I did a bassless quartet, and then they played. I can't remember the name of the band. That's bad, but I met him around then before I did Colorado Dream, but after Where Is Home with Janelle. And I asked him to play the, well, I should say, Janelle also was hung out with him a few times in Seattle when she was out there in like 2012. And she was also telling me about him. Um, and so I was looking at his stuff online, and he was selling a CDR in like a cardboard case, and it was ambient music that he recorded, and I bought it, and it was like beautiful, like just mind-blowingly beautiful. So I knew him as this, he had this like fusiony progressive like thing going on with Tim Byrne, like atonal melodic thing. And then this stuff was just so simple and lush and perfect. I was like, this is some of the best ambient music I've ever heard. And I asked him to play my CD release for Palo Colorado Dream in New York. We played Pete's Candy Store, which is a really small venue,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he did an ambient set, and it just like blew my mind, and it like totally calmed my nerves because I was freaking out. I was like, oh man, I gotta play with Mike Formanek and Chess Smith, and it was just so beautiful. And he's such a nice person. And yeah, I think he does a lot of ambient music. I see he's constantly posting, like he's at shows. And but anyway, that was just like a no-brainer. It's like you gotta get Ryan to do something if he will. And he created that very lush, the again, a chord progression. It's basically two chords, but it has two sections, which is amazing to me. It's the same chord progression, but it like expands in the B section, and it's just his use of space and timbre that does it. I mean, what I added again was just like with the Andy track was the simple melody. There's no time, so when he gave it to me, I was like, "Did you do this to a click or something?" Like I knew the answer was no, but I was like hoping, I was like, please let there be a click track so I could like record something. But he's like, no, sorry, it's all just it was done live. And I was like, well, that's great. So what I actually did was I found the time that I was feeling, and in Pro Tools you can set up the tempo markers, you know. So I like created my own click track for the two sections, and then I made the melodies I was hearing, I recorded the melodies I was hearing, and then I used plugins for delay, but set them to the time that I was feeling so that it was creating its own sense of time with the effects. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not sure how it worked, but
I'm not sure either, to be honest.
but it works. Whatever it is, it works, and it's great that you got him on the record. I was just watching a video of you at what is it called? The Lost Origins Gallery, I guess a kind of
That was
ambient.
like the other week, yeah.
Yeah, just recently. And so what were you do you have a remote control for your 16 second on that stool? Is that what you're using? But it sounded like there was something else you were using that I don't know if it's the lo-fi junkie where you just set down a drone, but then you change the timbre of it and the distortion on it and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I've had that 16-second digital delay reissue for 20 years. And so I use that as my loop pedal. I keep it up kind of like, anyone that uses it or did use it did. And I have the foot controller. So you have the 2-octave slider, which I use all the time, but it becomes a 3-octave slider with the foot switch because you can do an octave up or down. And after that, I have the ZVEX Lo-Fi Loop Junkie that I've had for 20 years too. So that's been my thing the whole time. So obviously I was drawn to it because like Frisell, Nels, they used that. But aside from that, it was the only thing besides the green Line 6 pedal that would do extended overdub looping at the time. So it does 4.5 minutes of looping. And I was getting this stuff going with Janelle, so I was like, I could loop longer chord progressions now and build tracks. But the thing has just been amazing. I have two of them, just in case. But yeah, that's what I do. So I'll set up a loop in the lo-fi loop. I mean, the 60-second delay. Dump it in the lo-fi loop junkie, which is a one shot. Then once that's playing, I can go back to the lo-fi, the 16-second delay, excuse me, and go up or down octaves, start glitching on top of it with the fader. If you record while you're doing the fader moves, it'll record the movements. So then once you stop recording, the movements will play back, but then you can continue to move the slider so that the movements are now being moved.
Right, right.
It's just so fun. I mean, you saw me. I put my guitar down on my lap at some point. I'm just like,
Well, yeah, yeah. You just start playing the. Um, so is there a Nepenthe 2 in the works? It sounds like there is.
Well, yeah, I think there's going to be. So this record came out on my friend's label, Otherly Love Records. So it's available on vinyl. We're talking about number 2. But before that, in February, we're releasing on the same label, it looks like, a record called The Hunger Artist. And that's 2 long form pieces. Side A's a 30-person drone ensemble, and Rob Mazurek's playing trumpet as the featured soloist. And then side B is a quintet. It's Jarrett Gilgar on sax, Janelle on cello, Luke Stewart on bass, Jason Nazare on drums, and me. And that's a long form improv piece. So that's I'm kind of trying for Nepenthe Series Volume 2. I'm trying to maybe get another list of potential collaborators to work with.
Some of the same ones or all different?
I think it would be all different. I'm not sure how many of these I'll ultimately end up doing, but I think a second one is definitely going to happen if people agree to do it.
Cool. Does Rob still live in Brazil, by the way?
He lives in Texas,
Oh, okay.
ARPA, I think.
'Cause he came through Nashville with an amazing ensemble one time. He played in Nashville, and I think they were from Brazil. The guys in the
Oh yeah,
band.
the Sao Paulo, yeah, trio.
Yeah,
Were they trio?
I think so. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I've been. He was actually. I just met Chad, the drummer that he plays with too, from the Chicago Underground duo. That was the first free music concert I saw in DC live. My friend was like, "We gotta go check out this show." I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Let's just go." It's trumpet and drums, and his music has been very important to me. And we just saw him in New York for Jamie Branch's memorial CD release show at Roulette.
Oh, yeah, that was
Always
sick.
nice to see him. Yeah, very. But he's a great, just like such an inspiring artist. Because I mean, he does everything.
So, is there anything happening with the aesthetics that you can talk about?
I can say that it looks like we have a record coming out in the middle of March, and it's the whole record's a collaboration with James Brandon Lewis on sax. So it's a quartet recording, and we did it last December, and it should be coming out in March. We're
Cool.
playing we're playing Winter Jazz Fest in January, and we're booking tours next year. I think we have several in the works.
You coming over this side of the pond?
Yes, we will be. I think we're going to be in Europe in the beginning of June. We were just in Spain and Portugal last month, but that band's doing great. And then, can I tell you a few other things?
Sure, please.
Thank you. Last week, I'm really excited about this one. I started a band called Zom with two of my childhood friends, um, Andrew Colwell on bass and Dan Sharnoff on drums. I've known them since I was 13 and 15 years old, and they were the first people that I ever improvised freely with. So, I know how lucky I've been with collaborators and rhythm sections, especially. So they both live in New York, and I was like, I wonder what it'd be like to jam with Dan and Andrew, because I've played with people from my childhood before. And I don't know if you've done this, but when you play with people from when you were younger, especially when you're getting stuff together, I feel like all of my time, it makes sense. It's like this relationship I have just like locks in to what people that I've known in the past or played with in the past did with me. And this really just like clicked. The first track on the record is the first improv that we did in their rehearsal space in Brooklyn. We just recorded on Zoom. And anyway, then we went into Bill Laswell's studio and made a record over 2 days, and that came out on Ramble Records on vinyl last week. I also have a duo coming out with Jarrett Gilgore next year. Janelle and Anthony, the third record, is coming out on Cuneiform Records in June next year. It's a double record. The first record's all instrumental, like what we normally do, and the second record's all vocal. Janelle sings on every track. And that same month on Cuneiform Records, Janelle's second ensemble, Volcanic Ash record, is coming out. And that record is really, really exciting. The band is really fun, and Janelle's composing is really inspiring. And I'm also supposed to do a solo guitar improv record that should be coming out at the end of next year. So there's lots of good stuff happening.
That's great. Well, keep me posted on all of it. I've been falling down on the job, what with trying to get settled over here in terms of my record picks things, but Keep me posted. And I'm glad we got to do this, so that we could promote this record. And hopefully we can talk again behind one of the others. And hopefully I'll see you over here at some point. But as always, it's great talking to you, great seeing you.
You too,
And,
Michael. Thank you so much.
you take care.
You too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.